Welcome back to the Rich Equation podcast. Today I have a special guest, Garry Lineham. Mr. Garry, welcome to the podcast. I am honored that you're here.
It's an honor to be here. It's interesting. I'd like to hear more about your story. How'd you get here?
I am super fascinated with everything that you're doing. I don't think people realize how many different interests I have. And people may be listening to my podcast, and there's not many dudes like you out there, period. But what you're doing and what you're providing to the world and your subject matter is such a specialty, and you're so great at it, and I'm so curious about it, so I'm super excited to talk to you. Right before we started recording, you totally profiled me, which I love it. You've asked me my birthday. I'd love you to share with the audience what you called out. And by the way, everybody, we just met, so in 60 seconds Garry got like 80-90% of my personality right. So Garry, tell me who you think I am.
Well, you're rules-based logic. You're a born leader. Sometimes get a little bit fiery, but and worked up. But if you meet a circumstance, even if you messed up, you'll immediately come back and recognize. So very self-reflective. You process the world through rules. The primary issues for you is up here in the head, forehead, sometimes into the nose, which is headache tensions. Can be mid back, but liver is your big issue. Like, you want to try something right now for liver?
Yes, I'm standing up for you today. I will
Okay,
move to
so
whatever you tell me to do, my friend.
take your right hand, put it on your center bone,
Okay.
go down the rib cage just to the right. Okay, and then push into it and turn. Yeah. Now take your left hand, put it behind your neck. Okay, we're gonna do this, and this is called the programming mode. We're a human fluid adaptive biological computing system. So I'm gonna use some words to program you too. Okay. So breathe in through your mouth and pretend you're connecting your hands through your body. So breathe in. Two, three. Say, I no longer want to hold resentment or anger in my body.
I no longer want to hold resentment and anger in my body.
I'm replacing it with compassion and understanding.
I'm replacing it with compassion and understanding.
Breathe in through your nose 3 times. Two, three. Okay. What do you experience?
My body feels more relaxed,
Yeah.
looser. It
Calm?
this when I was pressing it, I could feel like a steel cable.
Yeah. Calm too, right?
Yeah, I feel calmer. What just happened?
Well, the body, I mean, you we can look at spirituality a lot of different ways, right? Um, there's a lot of emphasis on spirituality being in the head and being in the brain. So we try to intellectualize spirituality, but the truth is, the brain actually doesn't do anything. It just resolves patterns. It just finds a pattern, identifies it, and resolves it. But we've deitized the brain and we've demonized the body. But the brain is a reflection. Like, you don't have pain in your brain. If you were to cut your head open, you can do brain surgery without any anesthesia. And so we don't have emotions here. The emotions are in the body, and the brain's job is to explain what we feel. So you get a big emotion, the brain has to explain it. If it can't explain it, it just keeps thinking about it. And when we're in stress, we can't move out of that cycle. And
Mm,
since you are an Aries, a master level Aries, you use anger or frustration as a way to motivate you into action. Yes, I see you
true.
smiling there. Yes. So the thing is that part of that, because you use it over and over again, it's like any other muscle. It gets built up, and then you tend to hold it, which would give you like a lot of tension on your inner thighs, outside of the back of the glutes, the sacrum area or lower back area comes into.
Yeah, right. Sacrum area. You're spot on.
Yeah. So those are preconditions. So we are a fluid adaptive biological computing system. So irrespective of what belief system that you have, or what what you believe a human is, or what our spirit is, or whatever, let's just take that all off and say you can be whatever spirit or whatever belief you want, but you land in this biological computer that basically is the same with everybody else. And it comes in different versions. Like you got an iPhone 10, you got an iPhone 12, an iPhone 15. Some people got Androids, but they have the same basic principles. They have a display screen, they have a battery, they have an antenna, they have a hard drive and a processor, and they have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. They can receive information, send, connect with other people. It has logic and processing. It has a keyboard that can enter information and display it. So basically, you just defined a human being, and we just have slightly different versions. So if we strip apart all of that other stuff and the spirituality stuff, and I'm very spiritual, but if you slip it apart, then we deal with the body. Then the body has language and programming. That's what neurolinguistic programming is. That's how an FBI or border agent looks at you. They look at signs and the way you move. It's how we understand. It's been this occult way of looking at the body, and only a few people knew how to do it. Hypnotists and like I said, CIA agents and NSA agents, they knew how to do it because they're trained. The rest of us were taught it's just a meat suit. But that's not true.
It's just a what?
A meat suit.
A meat suit.
Yeah. And so all I have to do is know that there is a basic language between us. And then your version of it, you like a little confrontation. That's what drives you.
Mm,
And
true.
you like things to have structure and process. And if I want to communicate with you, I can walk you down a garden path with structure and process, which I just did. I told you about the computer. But if you were a Pisces, I would just talk about the floaty aspects of us all being one, and I just relate to you a little differently. But it's the same information.
Hmm. How did you get into all this work, Garry? And why are you here?
Um, it's a good question. I think work is a necessity is the mother of all invention. I think I was in pain all my life. That's how it started. And I spent a couple $1,000,000 trying to get myself out of pain. I was a bodybuilder, an athlete, then a businessman. I ran, built companies up into the tens of millions of dollars, sold them, some good, some colossal failures at the same time. But I had a knack for taking an idea that was tough and pushing it forward. But I've been pushing forward without acknowledging my emotions for many years.
Hmm.
That those emotions is energy and motion. It has to go somewhere. So if I'm not acknowledging them, like I said earlier, it's my thoughts thinking about it over and over again. Eventually that adds up, and eventually over time that creates dysfunction in the body. Just like when we did that one liver release for you, which is specific for Aries, by the way.
Hmm.
That one liver release specific for you with those words reprogrammed your computer. It let
Hmm.
some things go, and you look different. You noticeably are calmer. Your assistant or producer could probably vouch for that. She's laughing already, right? So if I know, I looked at the body and said there had to be something. I tried every modality known to mankind, like everything. $2.5 million, nothing worked. I just was in pain. And people ask what kind of pain: back pain, neck pain, emotional pain, thought pain. It just was a
Just
collection.
in turmoil.
Yeah, turmoil. Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. And I used everything. And finally at the end, it's like, well, I'm gonna try drugs and alcohol because
No,
nothing else is working.
nothing else is working.
Yeah, and as I got older, it became more and more painful. So, so having that over that time, I had an interesting business. I encrypted data on wireless devices and at a very high level that the government couldn't crack. And when I became unfriendly with the government and wouldn't give them access to my servers, they arrested me and treated me like a terrorist. So I spent 27 months confined, 17 months in solitary confinement, and by the time I got out, my 20 years of pain and that $2.5 million hit a peak where I couldn't function, lost my ability to even operate a computer. And I came from a data processing background. So at that point, I had to find an answer. So I went seeking an answer, and I just looked at the body and said, it's a computer. And let me figure out the programming code of this computer. And if I can figure that out, I can find a language, because we have all these languages that are out there. We have chiropractic, we have allopathic, we have frequency medicine, we have yoga, we have all of these different languages, ancient ones, practices, and everybody's got a view of it. But I looked at it from an overall, like I'm a systems guy, a lot like you. I look at overall pictures. And then, by the way, I'm an Aries rising, 21 degrees, which is probably the same as yours, pretty close. So we're pretty close. My ego is probably you. And so I look at things from a systems point of view. And I looked around and said, okay, let's look at our population today. We are sicker than we've ever been in every disease known to mankind, every dysfunction. I'm 55 as of yesterday. And
Happy birthday.
thank you. And so we didn't have ADHD. We never saw anybody with MS or Parkinson's back then. There was a few, but you didn't have depression and anxiety when I was a kid. That wasn't on the spectrum. You didn't have people worrying about peanuts in the cafeteria food supply when I was a kid, because nobody had the problem. I mean, a few people did, but generally people didn't. But now, every disease and dysfunction, from physical to neurological to emotional, is at its peak. There's never been a time in history where we're worse. And furthermore, 30 years ago, nobody knew what an acupuncturist was, or Chinese medicine doctor,
Sure.
or never knew what a shaman was, generally. I mean, people in the world,
Generally, you're right. You're right.
generally North American population. They didn't know what all these ancient practices were. They didn't even know what yoga was. It wasn't even in America back then. But here we are. Now, the average person knows it and uses it. But so we have two-thirds of the population actively engaging in some sort of practice or care. We have basically one in every four people focused on helping the body, or helping somebody integrate the body, from a coach to a trainer to a doctor to a therapist, massage therapist to a intellectual talk therapist. And we are sicker than we've ever been. So from a systems point of view, if this was a business that you are running, you would have to assume that the business and all the attributes of that business was failing. So you could try and patch the holes like everybody else has done, or you could rip it all apart, tear down the
Mm.
business, bankrupt it, or rip it to shreds, and then start over with the primary principles. Like, what are we here to do? We're here to have an experience. What is that experience? Well, it's not to build a business and to have a picket fence. It's to experience all these emotions in this world that we live in, this beautiful place out here. That's what we're here to do. But we don't do that. We're most supposed to be outside 85% of our time, but we spend 90% of our time inside. We're constricted by rules and beliefs, and we're like afraid to talk and say what we're supposed to say. So we have all these rules and constrictions, and just like when you put a rope around an elephant's foot and nail it to a post as a child or as a baby, and as it grows up, it doesn't think it can get away. We have words, rules, restrictions, societies, beliefs, which have constricted us and is now causing dysfunction in our body.
Mm.
So there had to be a way through it. And when I just looked at the systems and ripped them apart, I got involved in practicing medicine. We built a clinic in Venice, California. We had 52 practitioners from every discipline you can imagine. And here's what I found at the end, working with the top Olympic, top athletes of the world, top celebrities, top gurus of the world, who were my personal clients, doctors, everything. At the end of it, we're all sick, including me. So I was
Mm.
looking for an answer from somebody who'd never ever that I couldn't find somebody who had achieved it. Even the ones that are the thought leaders in health, they're sick. And if they're not sick in their body right now, they're sick in their mind and their
What
emotions.
does
And
it mean to be not sick?
pardon me,
What does it mean to be not sick? If everybody is sick, what does not sick look like?
sickness is a condition that leads to death.
So in that case, we all are sick because we're all going to death?
Sure, but do we have to be that way? We have records of even in today's modern time. We have a man in China lived to 284 years ago. Just died, like 30, 40 years ago. And we have records, we have historical records that show people living into the hundreds, but that's not our current narrative. Our current
No.
narrative, I mean, when I was a kid, 80, 90-year-olds moved. They were out baling hay and climbing and taking care of chickens and cows. And when they decide to pass, they weren't dysfunctional. Today, we get dysfunctional and we pass 20, 30 years later. Like, that is not sick. I can't even claim to understand what true health is, but true health is growing, wanting to know more, wanting to experience,
Mm.
wanting to bring on emotions, wanting to enjoy my life, not playing safe. And we've been taught to play safe. Why? Because we have a limitation of time, controls our economy, scarce resources. So our time is scarce. So we start limiting it and we play not to lose. You ever seen a hockey team or a football team play not to lose?
Mm.
They lose pretty quick. So we're playing not to lose in our
True.
life, and that's not the way we're designed. We weren't here to do that. We're here to experience. And I for one wanted to experience my life, but my body was in the way. My emotions, my thoughts, my beliefs were in the way. And I've been unraveling that. So after I got finished with fixing the body, then all of a sudden a new level of fixing the body, then my emotions came up. I
So
had
what
to
is
start
what
processing those.
when you say let's get I want to understand exactly what you're saying. So in your search, you found the body as the answer to reprogram the brain?
Well, the brain is programmed by the movement of the body. Yeah, that is what's neurolinguistic. It's linguistic or neuroplasticity. It comes from if I move this, my brain has to take an action. This takes more energy. This takes more energy from my brain to do this than anything else I can do in human history. It takes us 9 months to learn how to walk, and those patterns of walking take a while, but they create what we call synaptic optimized programs. There, once I learned to get a baseline in order to function in this world, I stopped thinking about it. I hardwired that program. I don't think about getting up anymore, but if I get up, I have to like, okay, tighten my core, lean my head forward, stand forward, put one leg forward, step on the other leg, lift my arms, push up. All of those are the components of standing up, but I just get up now. I don't think about it, but all of those components are like a computer. They
Those
still run every time
yeah.
I do it. Now, if I have a dysfunction in doing it, my brain has to think of a new way of doing it every single time.
Mm.
That takes energy, which is life force.
What is health for you?
Health is, I used to think it was not being in pain.
Mm. Like playing to not win.
Yeah, but pain is the greatest motivator of humankind. And pain is very subjective. Like if I put
Oh,
your body into pain right there, if I was to push into it,
you're gonna
and
move.
then you take and put your hand there, the pain drops 50% instantaneously. So pain is relative to
Mm.
experience. So pain is when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. Human beings change, but not until then. So pain is actually a motivator, but we fear pain, which makes pain twice as much. So being out of pain is not being in health. Being in health is having the ability to process and experience without running old narratives. Because if I'm running old narratives, I don't even get the chance to experience. I just go back into the Pavlov's dogs, the old way of experiencing things. Like when you say something, if I know you, I jump to the emotion and the conclusion. That's not experiencing, that's running a pattern.
Mm.
So experiencing life, enjoying new patterns, living in nature, living in community, reflecting, having conversations like this as a part of every day. Like, hey, how's the weather? Did you catch the game last week? What do you think about that? Did you get that business report? How did that look to you? How is that? How is that a life?
Being present, I'm hearing being present and experiencing life with all of our senses. We get so lost in the past. I want to ask you about stress because we live in a world where this causes more stress than it ever has before. We're all connected all the time. Information is flourishing all the time. And there's almost like no incentive to stay present if you're not in tune with what's really going on. And at least, and you did a good job of profiling me. I also am probably too focused on the future. Forget about even the past. My mind is spinning all the time in the future. And I
Why do
find
you
that
focus on the future?
meaning I'm always dreaming, always thinking about where we can go or what I want to be doing, or instead of just being here.
Hmm.
I
That's
think
leader.
actually, sorry.
That's leadership. That's the Aries in you.
Yeah, it's the leadership part of me. It's part of actually why I love podcasting because it actually forces me to be here. It's not a time where I'm talking often. It's the what time that I'm often just asking curious questions and listening. So it really forces me to be more present. Um, what have you found either in yourself or the people around you to deal with this dynamic? Because I feel like it is. I used this analogy before, like the Buddha in the battlefield is like we all want to try to be more present, more clear, more in touch, but we live in this environment that we're sitting in, almost like praying in the middle of a battlefield.
That's a really good description. It's like we're trying to And what we're trying to do is we're trying to uh, patch bullet holes with band-aids.
Yes.
One of our nurse who is one of our community members and one of our, we call lifestyle artists, she said that to me, and I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing. So I think you have to define what stress is first, because people think their job is stressful. They think that that the IRS is stressful, that the traffic is stressful, or stuff like that. Work is stressful, but that's not stress. Stress is my reaction to it.
To it.
If I'm hungover, simple tasks become overwhelming, stressful. If I'm completely clear, come out of a massage, had a great vacation, people can almost blow stuff up and I'm cool. So stress again is relative to perception, my ability to perceive. And so yes, there's things calling for our attention, but we've been taught that our lives are supposed to be this certain way. One of them is confined within our spaces. And one of them is to have tasks in order all day long. And if we don't have this routine, we don't feel safe. Part of the reason to look in the future is to protect myself, is to feel safe. But the way that a dog feels safe is we put them inside of a kennel, inside of a house. That's not natural, by the way.
Yeah.
That's trained into them. So when we put us inside of a house and make us think about the future to protect ourselves, to not have an experience, like like everything in your life is
But you're
worked out.
speaking about everything. You're speaking about civilization today.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're changing the way we're doing is redefining what a human is and how we live. Because if we can't fix the problem inside of the problem, and inside the problem is to do what everybody else does, to live the same way, to go get help, knowing that our bodies are going to degrade and break down, have the same narrative about how long we live, to then, to go to a doctor when I need help. I mean, I'm 55 years old. At 50 years ago, 80% of people didn't go to a doctor for help.
Hmm.
It was the moms and the grandmoms in the neighborhoods. But today, 80, no, 90 plus percent of
Everybody
the,
goes to help. No.
yeah. Yeah. So that means we are
Even
not
children, even our children.
right. So if I need somebody else to help me feel good or explain a problem in my body, I become completely addicted or dependent. So when I got to the top of medicine, and I'll just say it this way. I mean, there's a lot of great practitioners out there, and I'm not pushing against them, but when people were broken in the areas of expertise that we were in, we're fixing the body, the brain, and the function for performance. Even if they're at the team, the Dodgers, the Lakers, if they were Olympic runners, they came to Human Garage. So we fixed them when no one else could. That just by default, we were good at what we did. And when I got there, I realized that if I didn't have that care on a regular basis myself, that I wasn't okay. So this version of feeling good in my body is really what I wanted. But I couldn't feel good in my body when when I depended upon somebody else to help me feel good.
That makes total sense. And I can reciprocate that too. So what do you do?
Well, that's where I mean, I had been working on these ways to help athletes. Like we were fixing athletes, but they didn't have their therapists weren't learning our stuff. So we're very boutique, very unique. I was developing ways that they could help themselves. So athletes would often get into trouble, still do it today. They can't get fixed by the teams and by the coaches and by the practitioners and by the doctors. So they go to their hotel room and they call. And then we do something with them to help them out of that pain. And it just came out of a necessity of helping athletes originally or chronic pain cases that couldn't come to Human Garage. We had 3,000 people on the waiting list. We couldn't see any more people. So, and we were always full. We're always busy. So even for our good clients, we couldn't get them in back right away. So we created ways for them to help themselves. And it worked. But it still was this belief that I, even myself, that I needed somebody to fix me. So when the pandemic came, we had taken these movements that we were using and we put them together in a series and just started living them. My partners Cynthia and Jason, um, we decided to just go out and do these maneuvers every morning and see what would happen. Just try
Hmm.
it out. First time in my life I didn't have to work. So I got the chance to experiment. So we went out every day. We did these maneuvers. Now here's a funny one. We're in Vancouver, Canada. We're doing them. So we walk down we're down by Kitsilano on the beach. Where we walk down and there's this big rocks that would be up boulders, and there's this blue wall. We decided to do it in front of this blue wall. And people have called fascial maneuvers like a new yoga. So this blue wall, we found out after 2 months of doing it there that it was Chip Wilson's, the founder of Lululemon. It was his house that we're doing it in front of. That's the irony of developing the new yoga. So we did it every day. And guess what? Our need for care and helping each other or working on each other and fixing each other and using
Went down.
and stuff went away.
Hmm.
But then when that went away, then came the real issue. Is why was it there? I believe that all pain and dysfunction is emotional.
All physical dysfunction is emotional. Is that what you're saying?
All pain, all dysfunction.
All pain.
Because
So then what do you do with that?
drives stress more than anything else, back to your question of stress, is emotional dysregulation. I
So
can
is
work
that
all day long and still have energy, but if I have a tough conversation with a partner or a family member or somebody dying, instantaneously I'm drained of energy. The
true?
emotions override, and they suck up more energy than anything else that we do. So if I'm angry and I use anger as a way of stimulating my life, like a good Aries, eventually one day I start to feel wore out. I start to drink more coffee. I start to sleep more or take more stimulants. I start to activate myself more and not want to stop down, because when I stop, I shut down and I can't get back up.
So what does that mean? Does that mean think less? Does that mean meditate more? Does that mean stop caffeinating? Does
Yeah.
that mean work less?
How about
Or
all of
maybe
those? How
maybe
about all
all
of
of
those?
those.
But the thing is that what is thought? Thought doesn't happen until there's a stimulation. Like we one of the premises of our therapy and the discovery of it was simply is thinking about, what is motion? How does motion work? So I'll give you an example of what we looked at. We were doing nerve conduction testing. So we were testing, if you step on a piece of glass here, how long does it take to go to the brain and back down to the foot for motor control? And that whole journey through the brain and process down the foot is a second and a half. So I asked because I didn't go to school for medicine, I learned in the field. I said, so that just begs the question: how do we move when we step on glass? And they're like, well, it's the ganglion reflex. So the doctor hits your knee, you go point. And I'm like, wait a second here. Hold on a second here. That means if I step on glass, I involuntarily jerk and spring like a jumping jack. And I said, that's not what happens. I actually move somewhere to safety, forward, backwards. So what you're saying is that my entire nervous system, my body, my muscles, my brains, all my systems are moving to safety before my brain is even registered and sent the command back down to my foot to move. So movement can't be generated by mind, muscle, nerve connection. That was our hypothesis. Now,
Mm.
whether it was true or not, we practiced on that for a decade in the clinic, and that was our assumption. As a result, we have pretty good results. That was the thing. We would say, okay, the results work. This is what we believe. We could be completely wrong, but it's working. And here we are now with over 20 million people around the world in just 3 years doing fascial maneuvers. Hundreds of thousands of practitioners, all the world's implementing it in their systems. It's working. Now, we can argue with the science of why it works, but we can't take away the fact that it works. It works. It works all over the place. So then it's of trying to describe why it works. So basically, if that means that if I'm moving, even if I step on a rock, my brain doesn't, and the muscle connection doesn't move fast enough for me to adapt to simple movement. So there had to be something else. We assumed it was a fascia. Back then, we didn't have the knowledge. Now we know the
We didn't
fascia.
have the knowledge. Fascia is still relatively new.
Yeah, it depends on what you read. I mean, the science articles that came out in 2017 were actually done 20 years previous, and they just buried it. But what it said is the fascia has this interstitium of brain, and our brain has 100 billion neurons or nerve endings, but our fascia has 100 trillion. So it's kind of like saying my iPhone watch is running Google, saying my brain is running the body.
Right.
Yeah, the computation power just doesn't make sense. So the brain responds to request, and before I move my body, I have to have something called a desire, because I can have a thought, but if I don't have a desire to move, I don't move. So
Mm.
desire is based upon an emotion. which is resolved in the middle of the brain, the limbic region, before it gets to the rear brain, which is what fires those hormones and makes us move, where the cerebellum and the homunculus is. So basically, emotion precedes motion.
Hmm.
Now, this is a completely different way. This is like saying the earth is flat or round, and who knows today on that argument, but literally, it's like saying the earth is flat when everybody says it's round, or another way around. It's like saying the sky ain't blue. And so again, we had no way to validate our science, but what we could do is put it into action. Now we have literally hundreds of thousands of testimonies and people arguing now, taking science and trying to validate why this works. And I'm completely open to the fact that nothing that I say is correct here today. I could be completely wrong. I just know it works. And I
You
have a
just know it works in the sense that people feel relief. And what does relief feel or look like?
well, let's do something right now.
Let's
Let's
do
do,
it.
let's
I'm
get it
ready, man.
out of your head again, okay? So let's do something
Yeah, get me
that
out of my
results.
head. There's a lot of information.
Okay, so we'll do something that affects the jaw and the head right away. Okay, so
Great.
take your thumb, put your thumb inside your ear, grab the ear, like really grab it, like you're gonna pull it. Okay, so you
Okay.
can really turn it. If you turn it, it's gonna hurt. Okay.
Yeah, it hurts.
Okay. So we're gonna turn both at the same time. We're gonna open and close our jaw in different positions. Okay. So grab the other one,
Okay.
turn it so it hurts, like really hurts. Okay. Open
Okay.
and close your jaw 3 times. Look up, chin to the sky, open and close 3 times. Chin to chest, open and close 3 times. Like you're swimming, look up to the right with your chin there. Open and close 3 times. Go all the way to the left, open and close 3 times. Come back to center. Move your neck and head around. Take a deep breath. What is your experience?
Yeah, the tension in my head is gone.
Right. Where's your thoughts?
Nowhere.
Blah. You used to have to go to school and learn to meditate for years, which I could never meditate. Now you're meditating.
I'm not thinking about anything you talked about. I'm just like, now I don't even know what question to ask next.
Okay. Let's take it up a
So,
notch.
so
Okay.
what just,
Let's open up
yeah,
your
go
heart.
ahead.
Okay. Take your right hand, put it
Yeah, let's,
on your shoulder with your elbow sticking forward. Take your left hand, grab the skin on your elbow and turn it outwards. It's like twist it out there. Put it above your head. Fold over to your left. Okay, now turn your head to the right. Breathe in through your mouth 3 times. Keep leaning over through your nose 3 times. Okay, come on up. Move around a little bit. Move that shoulder. Feel lighter
so
on one side of your body.
yeah, all this is lighter.
Yeah, move your hip too. Just
Oh
walk
yeah.
backwards and forwards. Your right hip is loose now.
Yeah. Wow, you're right, actually. Do my
Yeah.
left side. My left hamstring is tight as hell.
Okay, so let's get the left one. Left elbow up with the elbow pointing forward. Turn the skin. Pull it above the head. Reach over to the right. Turn your head to the left. Breathe in through your mouth 3 times. Through your nose 3 times. Okay. Now move around a little bit.
Yeah, it just released my hip.
Yeah.
50% of my hamstring pain is gone. So okay, so wait a second. So tell us, oh Garry, you're just stretching us. No. Tell us what's going on in the body and what's going on in the mind. What are you doing?
Okay, so we see the body as a pressurized system. I'll give you an example what that means. At sea level, we don't think about pressure because it's constant. We're born in it. We don't think about gravity because we're in it every day. We don't think about things that are constant. That's the brain. The brain only notices contrast. So there's 14.7 pounds per square inch of pressure on your body right here per inch. aggregate about 2,000 pounds of pressure on your body. That means that you have to have an equal or opposite pressure on the inside of your body. Otherwise, you would implode or explode.
Mm.
That's why when you get jammed up with your food and those bacteria go in your small intestine, your ileocecal valve on the right gets blocked, you get distended, bloated. You feel pressure, and then you feel it in your head. So with 2,000 pounds of pressure, that's a lot of damn pressure, right? So we found that pressure worked in zones. And we found that pressure moved the body, and then muscles stay and bones stabilize the movement of the body. Remember
Mm.
that emotion precedes motion. So the fascia, which transmits at the speed of light, is moving the body by moving pressure. And you can go and look at fascia magnified 25 times on YouTube,
Yeah.
and
It
you
looks
can watch.
like a steel cable.
Yeah, but you can see there's water moving in those little tubelets. It's like a garden hose that's flat, and when you pour water in, it presses up. So that's like. Now, if you put electricity on your muscle, like in your arm, it just goes boing. You let it go, it goes boing. There's no movement other than a complete contraction, which means that muscles, when stimulated with electricity, which is how it moves technically, the only thing you have is a contraction. That's not intelligent. That means something else is controlling the movement of that muscle.
Mm. So it's not electricity, it's something else, is what you're saying.
Well, it is electricity, but the
It is,
electricity.
right, I get it. If it's not, yeah, it's not doing something else with the muscle except for just contracting it.
Yeah. So what we believe is, and what we can demonstrate actually, is that your body's in zones. Your finger, 1, 2, 3 joints. 1, 2, 3 joints. 1, 2, and then from the hip, the pelvic floor down, 3 joints. So there's 3 primary joints in every region of the body. And we found that if you adjust a region here like this is a bone that looks like an L shape. Well, in your hip, if you look at it from the side, it looks like an L shape. And your ankle looks like an L shape.
Mhm.
So I'll demonstrate this to you right now. Take your 3 fingers on your right hand, put it on your jaw facing back towards your ear. Take 3 fingers. Oh, first of all, move around a little bit. Feel your ankle flexion. Like feel your ankle, so you can
Yep.
feel if your ankle moves or not. Like walk a little bit back and forth, and then squat a little bit, just so you can see. Okay.
Okay.
So take your right hand pointing back to your left hand pointing forward towards your mouth. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to push in and twist the skin to the center of the body. Okay, you're going to breathe in 3 times through your mouth. Look up and breathe in 3 times. Chin to chest 3 times. Look up to the right 3 times. Look up to the left 3 times. Okay, move your neck around. Take a deep breath. Wow, your chest is a little bit more open. Move that
Yep.
hip a little bit because you tested that a minute ago.
Yeah.
Feels lighter. Now move your
Yep.
ankle.
Yeah.
More flexibility.
Yeah, actually, yes, you're right.
So we can explain this through what we call neuromuscular calibration. We can look at the neurons in the brain and we can say, well, we touched this, it connected to there and went to there. But that doesn't explains the relationship, but it doesn't explain why that relationship is there. And it doesn't really, again, I
And we
believe
don't know. We don't know, is that what you're saying?
we listen, there's 2
We
million.
know that it feels better, and you're right, that it feels relief. I do feel relief. It's very interesting. It's
Yeah.
fun to, as a listener need, if you need to, if you don't understand, you need to go to your YouTube and watch this because you got to try it. But we don't know scientifically, is what you're saying, Garry. Is that what you mean?
We don't know anything about the body. Like
So
there are
fascinating.
millions of proteins, right? And we know what 5,000 proteins run every function in the body. We only know what 5,000 of them do out of millions. So how can we say with any level of certainty or confidence we understand the body? We have all these smart guys out there talking about the body, but the truth
Mm.
is we don't know shit.
What is the future of medicine, Garry?
The future of medicine is self-healing. We medicine is is something that helps the body do something that is normal function. Medicine doesn't heal us. I put a band-aid on or give myself a drug or do a surgery, that just gives my body the ability to heal. If I put a band-aid on here, there's no medicine that makes that skin heal. It just, the body does it naturally. It's taking away the restrictions, the reason why we're not healing. If your liver, your Aries, if your liver is necrotic, we cut it in half, it'll grow in 6 months. We grow half a liver. So if we can grow half a liver, why don't we grow a gallbladder back, or why don't we grow a tooth, or why don't we grow anything else? And we do, and there's evidence of that, but that evidence is buried because it does not go with the narrative that's out there today. Because
Mm.
if that's true, then you will stop looking to an outside source to fix your body. We are self-healing, self-generating machines. When we don't eat, we all know that when we stop and we fast, or intermittent fast or fast, by the third day, our body's producing stem cells like crazy. But I
Yes.
used to be in a business where I'd send people up for stem cell therapy and pay 80 grand for it. Well, your body can produce them when you just stop eating. It's a lot cheaper. You see,
Fascinating.
we say fascinating.
Fascinating.
We we can't pretend anymore that we understand this stuff. And the people that are smart, with all the scientists out there that understand the body, I know that you draw relationships between what works, but we have a macro that works, that all the formulas work. But what happened is we took the cell number one and they told us what that is. Bones aren't structured. None of the bones in your body touch except for your teeth, your rib cage, and your ears. Structure is like right here. That's a beam. It's, this thing's nailed up. That's structure. Boom, that's structure. If your bones touch, you're in pain. So what holds the knee up? Well, it's not the bones. It's not the meniscus that touch it rips. It's not the tendons that keep it from pulling apart. It's the connective tissue. What is connective tissue? It's your fascia. Your fascia is the structure. Your bones and your muscles stabilize the movement of the fascia. We have been told about our body, and the way that they told us just doesn't make sense. The muscle and the brain, and the brain and the muscle connection doesn't move the body. It just doesn't make sense. So again, I could be completely wrong, but there's millions of people that are using it and it's working. So if I'm wrong and the narrative is
It doesn't
wrong,
matter.
tell me, and I'm open to the fact that I am. I completely accept. Like, I'm not. I don't consider myself to be the smartest guy in the room ever, but I'm willing to try stuff.
Well,
Purely-
I'm not a doctor. I am a furniture doctor, but I'm not a doctor. And I am a guy who is not one that needs too much scientific data to say whether or not something works. And a lot of people maybe will challenge me on that, but I think I'm right up there with you, where if is something makes me feel better, I don't need to read a paper to tell me that it's true. And I guess, Garry, just super fascinating conversation. I feel like you and I would hang out and have such a good time
we
together.
would.
We would. As we kind of wrap up, I want to ask you some final questions. If I'm listening to this and I'm new to this, what do I do with this information?
Yeah,
Um,
real
you
simple.
have a great website. You have a lot of stuff on YouTube. I encourage all the listeners to go there. But like, what do I do with this? What is a first step? Like, what is the first one or two, three steps that I should be doing
I
to,
I
if
spent
I'm suffering, if I'm ill?
own healing, and then another 15 million trying to figure out working with patients to get this information. And when I discovered how easy it was to heal myself and make my body function and perform, you know what I did? I decided to make it all free. So every one of our programs and training and education programs free of charge. People can buy a supplement. They don't have to. We tell them how to get them themselves. People can go to one of our classes, and they don't have to. They're all free, and we have them to the 28-day reset. They go into the resets. They go to our website, try an upper or lower reset, and the barefoot sprinter routine number 2. Try one of those. If you have autoimmune issues, if you have hip issues or knee issues, try the lower reset and the barefoot sprinter routine number 2. If you have brain dysfunction, anxiety, depression, try the upper reset and barefoot sprinter routine number 2. It's on our website. It's free of charge. If that resonates with you, go into the 28-day reset, and everything that we know about the human body, we will teach you through a series of programs, starting with the 28-day reset. And right now, we've just launched it so that there are classes that you can go to with coaches online every day for free. And what's going to come up is emotions. So the processing, we also have that where you can help. And if you want to contribute and help others, then learn this and show. And how do you become a coach? Is Try it, experience it, play a video for someone else, and now you're a coach. Help other people start helping themselves. It's the way that you'll learn this is by helping somebody else, because when you help somebody else, you cauterize the experience. But try this. Don't try to intellectualize it. Don't try to look for the science and the research. Try it. It's being used all over the world, in from Olympics all the way through to business right now. We worked at children's hospitals, we worked with university and colleges. It's in trauma therapy all over the world. It works. Try it. And now is the time to do it. The world's coming into a crisis point. Stress, anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia, disease dysfunction is all-time high. It's now the time to do this, and it's a time to do it because even if you're not sick yet, that everybody around you is getting sick in some way, shape, or form. And eventually we become like our environment. So it's time to get out and try this. Start simple. Prove it to yourself, or try to disprove it to yourself. Either way, the only way to do it is to try it. And then once you try it, like you just did today, the only thing you can do is then try to explain why it works. And if you have a better explanation than me, please share it with me. I will promote it. I will help you. If you have a way of explaining this or science behind it, we will back you.
So fun. Garry, for you, what does it mean to live a rich life?
Rich is a funny word because people associate it with money.
Mm-hmm.
I own 5 pairs of shorts now and a dozen t-shirts. I have a backpack, 2 pairs of barefoot shoes. I have no assets. I don't have a license. I have a passport and a birth certificate. I don't carry money. I spend my life helping people and doing what I love. Richness, living a rich life is doing exactly what you love and not expecting anything in return for it. And as a result, we live in great places. We help people, but we have a whole team of people who are here doing the exact same thing. That's what living a rich life to me is. It's not having the expectations, not being beholden to anybody for anything at any time, being able to experience anything that I want without judgment.
Do you sell that in bottles, or can we buy that somewhere on your website?
We do.
I
It
love
comes
it.
with the 28-day reset. It's
I
the
I'm
starting.
gonna well, next time I'm coming up to North Vancouver, we are gonna hang out. We're gonna spend some time together. Garry, I really, really appreciate your time. I honor you for everything you're doing. Thank you for giving us the tools, the tricks, the ability to do it without signing up for some program or this, that. You're trying to make people better.
If
Uh,
it's true,
what
offer it for free.
I love it, man. You're right. You're dead right. What is Human Garage? How did you come up with that name? What is the Human Garage?
Came up because it's like when you're fixing somebody in the early days, it looks like a mechanic in a garage. Where do you
Mm,
put your second most valuable asset? And where does all the thinking and all the stories of business starts in a garage?
it's all in the garage.
Yeah. It's where we
I love
tinker.
it. Well, again, congratulations. I'm happy that you're happy. And thank you for trying to make the world a happier place. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the Rich Equation podcast. Listen, if you're really enjoying this and you're engaging with our community, we have an epic mastermind called the Epic Tribe. We meet every single week and we're bringing together leaders that really are trying to grow their businesses, expand their lives, and live epic lives together. If you want to change the world, well, we have to start with ourselves. We want to ignite leadership in all facets of our life, building communities of seekers who are asking questions, breaking patterns, and have a deep conviction of self. A space that elicits accountability, gratitude, freedom, and a lifelong pursuit of learning. Ultimately, this is all about you. It's about transforming our families and hopefully future generations. So we're really trying to instill these fundamental levels of awareness, habits, and skill sets, not only in our personal life, but in our businesses. We're really growing this community and trying to have people that are expansive and really want to take their life to the next level. So if that sounds like you, then you'd be a perfect fit. DM me on my Instagram, or you can send me an email personally at me@ashishnathu.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, but please engage. Leave us a 5-star review on the podcast. Make sure you download the episodes, and talk to you soon. We'll see you on the other side.